Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Hey, neighbor, here's some free advice that's worth thousands of dollars. Would you like it? Shut up and dig. Our OP at least tried to help. Stupid people don't like finding out they're stupid. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Do it my way, but just do it my way, okay? Have fun with a flooded basement. This happened a few years ago, right after my really good neighbor moved out and a new crappy family moved in. It was Saturday, and I saw the new neighbors working on their backyard. I hadn't really had the opportunity to introduce myself, so I went over and said hello. They were digging a pit to put in a plastic rainwater collection thing to water their vegetable garden with. Me being nice, I offered to help and spend a really nice day digging a pit and laying some cement for the tank to rest on. Well, I noticed two things and tried to bring it up. They did not put in any removable mesh through the main collection pipe, meaning if it gets clogged, it's going to be a pain to clean out. And there was no overflow line from the tank. The thing is, it would have been an easy fix, maybe 45 extra minutes. I tried to bring it up and told them, you might want to put some mesh in an overflow. I was shut down right away. They said, it's fine. I said, but you're going to I was cut off right away with, just do it my way. I want it done my way. If you don't like it, leave. So I said, okay, have a nice day, and left. About a month later, after heavy rain, guess what? It filled up. Then the intake pipe filled up. The water collected and spilled through the basement window, flooding the basement, and I mean seriously flooding, at least a solid foot of water. So yeah, maybe listen to the girl that went to university for you to know engineering. They had to pump the basement, dig up the tank, and add an overflow pipe. Since then, they've hated me. They don't hate you, they hate they were wrong and are too stubborn to admit you were right. And our second story. I work here, but I don't work here. I sort of work there, just not for the business itself, but I did wear a completely different color than the sales associates, so I think it was obvious enough. Anyway, about 3 years ago, I was working for a company that merchandised the live plants for a home improvement chain. We would unload new shipments, set up and maintain the displays, and keep everything watered and pretty, all for a nice hourly compensation. It was the best job in the world, but I was promoted at the other job I had the next year, so I didn't go back, and lately I'm missing it. The best part of the job was that we were forbidden from lifting anything that wasn't a live plant, part of a display, or watering equipment, lest we get reamed out if not fired. The reason being that, should we say lift something and hurt ourselves, our company's liability wouldn't cover it, and the store would be responsible, and they'd probably cut our contract over it. I was loading up a table with flats or something or other one day when this woman walks up and asks me to lift a bag of soil into her cart. She says it with that tone where she's annoyed that she even had to ask, so I wasn't exactly surprised that my answer, sorry ma'am, I can't help you with that, I don't work here spiel, didn't go over well. She snapped back with an, excuse me? Before insisting that because I was handling the flowers, I should be able to lift a bag of dirt for her. I gave her one more shot, telling her that there are store employees whose sole job was to help people like her out, and that I was not allowed to lift that because I didn't work for the company. She just kept demanding that I lift that bag of soil and calling me a lazy butt because I was doing my job, and pretty well considering I had to divide my attention between it and this arrogant jerk instead of helping her. Probably thinking I just made up the whole I'm not allowed part. I should take a moment to mention that while she easily had a decade on me, she didn't look like she was incapable of performing this task herself. Yeah, she had on nice clothes and probably didn't want to see them getting dirty, but don't come to a gardening store to buy dirt wearing clothing that could get ruined. I just kept on doing my thing until she got really nasty sounding, so I told her, okay, I'm going to help you. She must have felt like she'd won, but only for a moment, because instead of picking up the bag, I walked over to the register. Oh yeah, it was like 10 feet away this entire time, and told the cashier that there was a lift assist needed and to call one of the helpers before going right back to my work. This was the last straw, apparently, because she got really huffy and marched up to the register, screaming at this poor girl saying I should be fired for being so rude and lazy, then finally asking whether I even worked there. She was told no, and the cashier reiterated the part where I wasn't allowed to lift stuff that we didn't handle. And it must have all clicked. She immediately turned to me, apologized, and just had this look of utter embarrassment on her face. Haha, no, this just made her angrier. She power marched back to her cart, calling me a lazy butt one more time as she passed, lifted the bag and put it in the cart all by herself, and making some sort of nasally sound before tearing butt with her cart down the aisle and out of my life. I filled the cashier and a few spectators in on the first part, and they all just had a wow kind of reaction. The store manager asked me about it a few days later, saying she called to complain and that he told her what the cashier and I had also told her, and that she was threatening to take it up with corporate. Like, who's she going to complain to when they don't tell her what she wants to hear? Congress? The encounter haunts me because if I was a little more focused that day, I could have really effed with her, and I've thought out 1,000 different ways I could have played the situation better. But that's life, I guess. Thanks for reading. Essentially, you're the equivalent of asking the Coca-Cola truck driver to help you find potatoes while he's wheeling a hand truck full of 2 liters into the grocery store. And our next story. Shut down by the CEO. So, I'm a butcher at a supermarket chain. We're halfway through an executive visit and are absolutely swamped. Usually I jump on a checkout to clear the lines, but my line was too long, so I point out to the CEO who jumps onto a checkout. He then serves a woman who leaves, only to come back and berate him in front of an extremely long line of customers over an item she'd been overcharged for. Customer, expletive-laden rant, "Give me my effing refund so I can get out of here." CEO, "Sorry, I'm just serving this customer and then we can help out." Customer, "No, you won't. You'll help me now, or I'll be complaining to your head office. I'll have you fired." By this point, the CEO has finished serving the customer and shuts off his till. Then, as calm as a Hindu cow, he asks her to walk outside with him. Now, you can still hear the customer's muffled screams and see her aggressive body language through our doors. Then it just suddenly stops, and the woman is like a deer stuck in the headlights. Apparently, this was because after he'd politely explained loyalty card discounts to her, she still had an insatiable desire to complain and cause a scene. Customer, "I want an email address so I can send a complaint to now." CEO, "Absolutely, ma'am. I'll give you mine and get back to you ASAP." Customer, "Why would I want your email address? I want to make a complaint." CEO, "I'm aware of that. I deal with the complaints. I'm the chief executive of this company." Customer, nonplussed. The SM checked the camera later, and turns out she'd swapped some barcodes and stuff to make her total lower anyway. She doesn't come here anymore. And our last story. But it's for family. So we'll call a friend of mine Katie. This is her story. Through circumstance and tragedy, Katie came into a comfortable amount of money. One of the multiple events that led to her getting money involved the loss of a family vacation home, which she happened to use as a primary residence. The family gave her part of the settlement, which was nothing to sneeze at. This meant she had to find a new home, but would have more than enough money to buy her new home and even retire if she wanted to. What none of us knew was that Katie had a long history of mental and emotional abuse from her extended family. If she got a hobby, her family took it away from her. There was an episode where she was raising, let's call them fire lizards. She was very proud of her fire lizards. One day she came home and her mother and father had sold her fire lizards for beer money. She learned not to have hobbies or pets or anything. If Katie played a game, they made fun of her. If she made a life plan, it got torn to shreds if it wasn't exactly in line with her family's desires for her. While she has a backbone, it's badly atrophied. She cannot make a decision if it favors her. If she goes out to eat, she buys the cheapest thing so she isn't a bother. The first time I heard executive dysfunction described, I thought of poor Katie. She's a fantastic person, but the moment she has to decide something, the anxiety overwhelms her. This is because when asked for her opinion, the traumatized child in the center of her soul begins screaming in panic. Wanting things means punishment, so you just don't want things. Only now she's expected to become attached to and purchase a whole house, and her family can't understand why she has a problem. Katie's problem kicked off a spiral of depression and alcohol use that landed her in inpatient care. And she did very well. She was able to find sobriety again and is slowly learning how to open the trauma box without being overwhelmed by the tidal wave of decades-old emotional pain. But she still needs to buy a house. Her family decides that since Katie cratered living alone, she needs to come live with them. And because she's a sweet summer child 1 week out of rehab and hasn't yet understood that her family's a Lovecraftian horror of reaching tentacles and Karen heads, Katie agrees to live within church distance with her family. And when she gets there, her mother immediately makes the familiar version of a modest proposal. Katie has a sister we'll call Mel. Mel has a husband we'll call Carl. Carl has a love affair with approximately all the chemicals and alcohol. Mel and Carl are both on disability and unable to work. Mel and Carl both need an infusion of money, and Carl happens to have a realtor's license. Katie still needs a house. Katie could solve all the family's problems by allowing Carl, a man who's fortunate to remember which president's on the dollar, let alone which one's in the White House, to broker her house sale. Katie's less than a week out of rehab, so she agrees to do this. Katie does the paperwork for a proposal 3 times because Carl cannot manage to check the right boxes. He switches numbers around, resulting in a contract that gives her 100 days to pay $10 instead of the correct 10 days to pay $100. He sends the wrong inspection report twice. He calls Katie at 6 a.m. demanding she sign a contract acknowledging receipt of rules she never got, and when she tells him 1 hour later that he never sent the rules and effed up the contract form again, he says, "What rules? And what form?" The good news is that Katie has decided F it all. She's putting her mental health first and isn't doing jack crap towards buying a place until she's finished the first couple rounds of outpatient therapy. But when she tells her family, they explode. Mel and Carl need that money, and the rest of the family can't just give them money because that would be enabling an addict. But if Katie just buys a house and gives Mel and Carl the commission money, everything will be fine. They want her to give Carl a cashier's check with 6 figures on it. They think this is perfectly fine. Katie does something completely out of character. Katie says no. There are further explosions, and then her mom hits upon the perfect solution. Katie can buy whatever house she wants and use whatever realtor she wants, as long as Katie pays Carl the commission money he would have gotten if she'd used him. Because the rest of the family can't just give him money, that would be wrong. It's okay to put this kind of pressure on someone who became depressed over the last attempt to buy a house, though? Because Mel and Carl need the money. Katie apparently looked at her mother open-mouthed for a few moments and then began calling her support system, which included me and some other mutual friends. We all laughed and told her this situation is effed up and her mother's out of her GD mind. Her mother still thinks that Carl, and by extension the rest of the family, is somehow entitled to part of Katie's money. The rest of us are giving Katie lots of hugs and recommending towns with comfortable distance from Mel, Carl, and Katie's entitled mom. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.